All right, Jess, are you ready for rapid fire?
Let's do it.
All right. Fill in the blank. Audric Estime's Notre Dame career was blank.
That's a tough one. How do you sum up such a versatile, athletic, powerful type of guy? I think Audric Estime's career at Notre Dame was short-lived, I think is the best way to put it. And I think that we will ultimately wish we had more of them at the end of the day because we only got, a little bit of that sample size. And to me, what we were talking about earlier in the show, he's just like the complete back, right? Like he's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he's fast, he's light on his feet, he's everything. He's a great leader, he's a workhorse. You can put the team on his back. Like it was just too short for me at the end of the day. And I wish that we had the opportunity in a selfish way to get even more of him because he's Baby Bus Jr. and I want to keep seeing some more of that.
Baby Bus Jr., not just Baby Bus, but he is Baby Bus Jr. as well. I mean, it's crazy. You're right. It did seem shorter than it actually was because we barely got to see him as a freshman. He only had 7 carries as a freshman, but he had, over 350 carries in the last 2 seasons. And to me, it was just a breath of fresh air because like Audric Estime was always kind of one of those, he didn't necessarily always give you the
Mm.
best quote, but at the same time, like he was having fun with it. And was like you could always kind of see behind, sort of that, sly little grin, like there were some things going on back there that he wasn't going to let you in on. But at the same time, he had fun with it. And he just looked like a guy who was always out there having fun playing. And just the way that he played, again, like there's nothing I love more than seeing, that big bruising running back who could not only be physical, but kind of have that shiftiness and have that breakaway speed like Audric Estime had to go with it as well. So it was a lot of fun. It was again a breath of fresh air. And at the end of the day, I agree with what you said. It was also a little bit shorter than I think that we all
I think he was
wished could have been.
ultimately underappreciated as well. And to me, my favorite thing of Audric Estime is what you were kind of talking about is, man, when the fourth quarter came and it was time to end games, I love seeing Audric Estime go to work because that's when he deserved the ball. As a running back, you
Yep,
you earn the right to run that ball in the fourth quarter when the
close
defensive
it
line
out.
is worn
That's
down, the
right.
linebackers are worn down. Last thing that they want to do is tackle big old Audric Estime coming downhill in the hole.
Yep. When they're sucking for wind, just punch them in the mouth and don't let them breathe. Just keep on trucking, man. And
Just
that's
keep
that.
on trucking.
He was fun to watch. That's for sure. All right, fill in the blank. It is blank that it looks like Notre Dame is going to be hosting Wake Forest wide receiver Jahmal Banks this weekend after already getting commitments from 2 other veteran receivers.
It's electric. And the reason why I say it's electric is because Notre Dame isn't stopping in terms of trying to add firepower or electricity to this offense next season. And it's very obvious that they're targeting guys that they feel are a very good fit for the system that they want to run next season. And so the more guys that they can get out of the portal, especially considering, who left, and then the excitement that you add of bringing in Coach Mike Brown, I'm just excited to see how all of this meshes together and this whole thing gets going. But the more talented bodies that you can add in a room, I think that just makes your room more electric and dynamic. So I'm hoping that they can get um, Jahmal Banks.
Yeah, I mean, again, like they've already got the 2 veterans in Bo Collins and Chris Mitchell from Clemson and Florida International, but they're not stopping there. And Banks is another outside receiver, just like the other guys, but he's got a little bit more size to him. He's 6'4, 205 pounds. He comes from Wake Forest. He played with Sam Hartman, of course, at Wake Forest. So there's a connection there. So I'm sure that there's been a little bit of Sam Hartman, kind of working the in between there, kind of, maybe kind of helping the connection between Banks and the Notre Dame staff. So I think that that's good. And I just, I love the fact that, look, what has been one of the biggest issues for this offense the last 2 years? wide receivers, right? And they've already gone out and added 2 guys who they know can produce. They're bringing in another veteran quarterback, and now they might potentially be bringing in a 3rd veteran wide receiver. And it's like, you know, you don't want to compete for a job, then maybe this isn't for you.
Right.
But they had to address this, and they've still got talented guys coming in, but until they get that room, really kind of restocked with their own young talented guys the way they need to, because let's not forget, they obviously lost 4 receivers going out the door this offseason. So to be able to go out and potentially bring in a 3rd guy with this kind of experience would be huge. So I think it's pretty cool that they're hosting another guy. They're not stopping with what they've got so far.
Yeah, and some of the limited time that I had to dig into some Jahmal Banks, I think the thing that was most noticeable is that 2022 season that you brought up with Sam Hartman. He had 42 catches, just about 650 yards and 9 touchdowns. So I really like the 9 touchdown parts because that's a guy who can finish drives for you and can get you into the end zone. And then last year, he had 0 drops on 88 targets. So we know he's a sure-handed wide receiver. And again, I don't think that he's a huge kind of, yards after catch kind of guy. He's one of those guys who's usually catching the ball. And like, it reminds me of Jason Witten towards the end when he would just catch the ball and just get tackled and kind of go down. I'm not saying it's that dramatic, but he's not a huge kind of, shifty. He uses more of his body to shield you off. And he's not going to do much after the catch, but he's a sure-handed receiver. He's going to catch the ball, and I think he knows how to catch the ball in traffic as well. So I think that's going to be very beneficial for them. A guy who can catch the ball over the middle of the field and be comfortable with it.
Carmel Humphrey, 6'3" Banks, 6'3" Collins, get the bodies on the outside instantly, 6'5" Colsey. And I mean, again, think about it, just what you're talking about, the end zone. How many, we haven't seen the last couple of years many fades to the end zones to receivers, right?
Right.
Because it's just it just hasn't been there. And these are the kind of guys who can give you that, and not only give you that, but give you plays on the outside. Again, because we know that they've got slot receivers. They've got slot receivers for days. They've got to have guys on the outside who can go out there and produce. And in all 3 of these guys, including Banks, are the kind who can go out there and do it. So I love it. So Tyler Buchner and Drew Pyne combined to start all 13 games for Marcus Freeman's 9-4 team last year. And as we've talked about, both Pyne and Buchner are going to be back at Notre Dame this spring, but neither is going to be playing football. So does that make you sort of reconsider how you think about Marcus Freeman's first season?
It makes me appreciate that first season a little bit more, just because, I mean, let's be honest about the quarterback room that he was left with. It was Buchner, Pyne, and Angeli, right? Buchner and Pyne are both not playing football next semester. Buchner said he's not playing again. We don't know if Pyne's going to move on after, finishing whatever he does at Notre Dame. And then if we're being completely transparent, it seems like Riley Leonard is going to beat out Angeli. So where does that leave Angeli after this? So I felt like Marcus Freeman, for being a first-time head coach and taking over, and again, not that he doesn't know offense, but he's not a super offensive-oriented guy. He's a defensive-oriented guy. That's his background. And so I think the ability to get the most out of that team in your first year, really, it was underappreciated. And I think it shows kind of, the work that Marcus Freeman put in. I don't think it excuses some of ththose bad losses against Stanford and Marshall, because I think you still have enough talent to win those games. But for what he was given and what he was able to get out of it in terms of quarterback production, I felt like it was a good job, a job well done.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at the fact, for different reasons, but I think that they combined to play 3 games at the 2 schools that they were at this year. Maybe it was 4, but I mean, Buchner got his 1 start and then he kind of disappeared after that. And, Drew Pyne, I still think Drew Pyne is going to end up playing football someplace.
Oh, he will.
I think that he's back to get his degree, get his undergrad degree this spring, and then he can still enter the transfer portal in April, and then, go out and transfer someplace else over the summer, but do it as a graduate student. But at the same time, again, it's just it is a little bit amazing when you look at where these guys are right now, just a little, not even a year later, basically. Like, we're still within a 12-month time span of last season when all this stuff, when Drew Pyne transferred last year and Tyler Buchner was coming back and becoming the quarterback in the Gator Bowl. The only thing that kind of makes me say, well, but is, they're a loss in the Sun Bowl away from having the exact same record as last year, or they're a win in the Sun Bowl from having one more win than last year, right? With Sam Hartman, a completely
so does that make
different
this
veteran
season
quarterback.
more disappointing?
Right. I mean, you still can't forgive the kind of losses that they had last year, but again, you do kind of have to look at it through a little bit different lens, I think, when you look at where these two guys are just a year later. It's crazy to think about it.
I think, and then I think the other flip side of what you were just kind of getting into, to play devil's advocate, is, were we expecting too much out of Sam Hartman, knowing kind of what offense he came out of? You know what I mean? Was he the quarterback that we build him up to be, or was he just, was he just kind of average like Pyne and Buchner? And so are we waiting on a true dynamic quarterback for Marcus Freeman to also kind of break out as well? I feel like those two things in college football and really in the NFL are what run parallels together. In order to be a successful coach, you more than likely have to have a pretty successful quarterback. But if you're Mike McDaniel, you're the reason why that quarterback is successful. You're doing everything in your power to enable that quarterback to be the best version of themselves. And I think that's been the biggest knock so far to me in Notre Dame is, if you're dealt crappy hands, that's fine. If you're dealt a hand that might not be, as advantageous as you want, again, that's fine. But let's do more to try to, again, find what these quarterbacks are really good at, so Notre Dame can also excel as well.
Yeah, and that's still kind of the lens, that's the other part of the lens, is Tommy Rees showed through most of his Notre Dame career that he was good at adapting to the personnel that he had. I think his last season, it seemed like, is he really doing that? But again, like, when you look now at what's become of these two quarterbacks, maybe it actually was, maybe he was, making, I'll do the nice version of it. Maybe he really was making lemonade out of lemons at times, and we didn't realize it at the time, because, look at, this was supposed to be the worst year in Alabama football since one of Nick Saban's first years. And look at where it ended up, and look at just the mess at times that became of Notre Dame's offense this year with a 6th-year veteran quarterback. And, Jimmy, I saw him say, did they really get the best? Did they really use Sam Hartman right? I mean, it was not what any of us thought it was going to be. It was not what Sam Hartman thought it was going to be. It wasn't what Marcus Freeman or Jared Parker thought it was going to be. It wasn't what anyone thought it was going to be. And I think only they truly know, who's how the blame, if that's the way you want to put it, is kind of divvied up on what it actually became.
I think Lloyd's comment is very appropriate.
Lloyd Christmas.
Yeah.
Anyone that doubted Nick's assessment of Tommy hasn't been paying attention to the last decade of college football.
Saban knows how to pick them.
Yeah. I mean,
he just doesn't go knocking on anyone's door.
Nope. Fill in the blank. It's blank that with Xavier Watts and Joe Alt both earning unanimous All-American honors, Notre Dame has a pair of unanimous All-Americans for the first time since 1990.
It is EPIC, epic, baby. Never happened in my lifetime. I couldn't even tell you who it was in 1990. I'm sure you
want to know?
could.
Do you want to know?
Lay it on me.
All right. Do you have a guess? Do you have a guess on any of them?
I'm not good with the history, especially before I was even around. So
They're all college football Hall of Famers now, 33 years later.
okay,
Rocket Ismail,
okay.
Chris Zorich, and Michael Stonebreaker, who just went in last
Ooh, Anthony
week.
got two of them.
Did he? Oh, there he is. Anthony Solomon. Yep. Rocket and Stonebreaker. Stonebreaker, Zorich, Ismail were the three.
So they not only in 1990 they had three of them. So that was even a larger task. And I guess there's a little bit of surprise to me as well because Notre Dame has had really good players since 1990. It just sounds like they haven't had the ability to kind of stack up multiple unanimous All-American selections in one season. Do you know, was Kyle Hamilton an All-American? I was thinking about that the other day.
Oof. I'm sure he got something, but I can't say off the top of my head exactly what it like. You're going to spring that on me now.
You know all the other stuff.
Well, some of this stuff, when I've got time to look it up, let me see.
Oh, he got it. He
Yes,
got
consensus. He was consensus.
there we go.
He was a consensus All-American in 2021.
Also doesn't help that he was in the same kind of class as Sauce Gardner. So both guys were playing in the NFL. The only reason I bring that up is because today Kyle Hamilton was anointed by PFF the highest graded safety in the NFL.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's working out for him. And just so, like, in case you're wondering, the 5 All-American teams that you have to make to be a unanimous All-American: Football Writers Association of America, Walter Camp, Associated Press, The Sporting News, and the American Football Coaches Association.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that there were 5 different, and that's what makes you unanimous.
Yeah, you have to get it in 5, all 5,
Oof.
to be a unanimous.
That is some prestigious honor.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, and again, like the fact that they've got 2 of them for the first time in 33 years is amazing because there's been a lot of football and a lot of Notre Dame and a lot of great football players come through here in the last 33 years for them to finally have 2 in the same season. And these are obviously 2 really good players. And we know one of them is going to be a first-round draft pick. And as we talked about before with Watts, maybe potentially trying to play himself into that if he decides to come back next year. And I think it's a nod to the direction that the program continues to trend in and the development within the program as well. Because, I mean, think about this. These are 2 unanimous All-Americans at the same time, Joe Alt, Xavier Watts. Alt was a tight end in high school coming to Notre Dame. They turned into a left tackle. And Xavier Watts was recruited as a wide receiver and well documented, bounced back and forth on both sides of the ball. They even tried to play him at Rover before tinkering with him at wide receiver again, before finally settling him in at safety. Going into last season, it wasn't even for sure that he was a safety. And now he's the Nagurski winner and a unanimous All-American as well. So it's pretty amazing the way they've been able to get these guys, develop these guys. And again, I think it's like the direction the program is going. It's a huge, I think somebody said it a little bit ago. It's a huge recruiting banner for these guys with what they're able to, with what Notre Dame is able to do with players.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show you if you are, a young athlete coming into this world, don't get caught up about what position you're playing or not playing. Obviously Notre Dame has proven, and a lot of schools are like this too. They're just looking for that overall athleticism or that raw ability that can then be, transformed into, what best fits maybe the player at that time, the team at that time, whatever it might be. If you have the talent and the ability, they're going to find a position for you.
By the way, don't get this confused with these are the first unanimous All-Americans since 1990. It's the first time they've had 2 at the same time because, like Carmel is saying, shocked that Jalen Smith, I know Manti was, Quentin Nelson, I think was. Again, it's the first time they've had 2 in the same season. It's not the first time they've had a unanimous All-American since 1990. It's just the first time they have had 2 in the same season. So they have had other unanimous All-Americans. They just haven't had two in the same season since 1990. So just to clarify that. So fill in the blank. Talking about Xavier Watts, we're still waiting for a decision from him on whether or not he's going to be back at Notre Dame next season. He and Benjamin Morrison, though, were both in that Riley Leonard video earlier this week when Leonard announced that he's transferring to Notre Dame. That means blank to you.
I think Xavier Watts is coming back is what that means to me, because you're not using him in a recruiting pitch. And then based on the comments that, we've kind of digested or dissected, whatever the word might be. And at the end of the day, again, I just don't feel like knowing, how Xavier Watts has talked about his gameplay, how kind of, the NFL might be looking at his gameplay of, there's some things here and there that you might need to polish up. And then when you're bringing your biggest recruits in for the weekend, I feel like it's a good look to have a guy that is going to be one of the leaders next season as well, because that's what those guys are. I feel like Benjamin Morrison and Xavier Watts are going to be the leaders of the defense, and JD Bertrand, of course, if he comes back as well. But having those guys out there is to me is that you're giving the full pitch of, this is what it's going to be. These are going to be the guys, going forward with you, moving forward.
Yeah, I think that with him being in that video, just what you said, I think that, we can read into that a little bit. Like, we know that Benjamin Morrison is going to be back. And it just really seems like when you listen to Xavier Watts last week and you see him in this video, it just all signs seem to be pointing that even though he hasn't made that announcement yet, he hasn't made, or at least announced the decision, all signs seem to be pointing to him coming back. So I think that is really good as well. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking to find the unanimous All-Americans.
I found them.
Did you find the list of unanimous? Okay, so
I did.
Give us an example, or give us kind of like maybe in the last 20 years or so, like who the unanimous All-Americans have been.
In terms of Notre Dame, they didn't have any last season. The year before that, they had they didn't have anyone in 2022 or 2021. Last time they had one was 2020. It was Jeremiah Owusu-Koromora.
Okay.
Before that, it was Quentin Nelson back in 2017. Before that, it was, I believe it was just Manti before that. Manti in 2012. 2009 was Golden Tate. Before that, let's see. I'm not seeing anyone in 2008, 2007. Not seeing anyone in 2006. Not seeing anyone in 2005. Not seeing anyone in 2004. And then, 2002, Shane Walton, defensive back. I don't even remember that name.
You don't remember Shane Walton? Yep, him and Vontez Duff doing it together in the secondary. The two cornerbacks for Bob Davie. And by the way, someone just posted this in the chat. Riley Mills is back, and Riley Mills just tweeted, "I got one more in me. #2024." So Riley Mills, breaking news, Riley Mills is coming back in 2024 for Notre Dame. More big news. So you've got the entire, well, not the entire, you've got 3 of the 4 starting defensive linemen, and the one you're going to lose, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, you're going to replace with R.J. Oben from Duke, who is the exact same size, 6'4", 260 pounds, and has a little bit better production in his career than what Javonte Jean-Baptiste had coming into Notre Dame a year ago.
Man, after reading that list, it's just kind of crazy to me that Notre Dame really hasn't had, spanning the last 30 years, they've had maybe, 5 or 6, and now that they hit on 2 in the same season, that's kind of crazy, because the last one that I could see was Aaron Taylor back in 1993. So spanning back over 30 years, you only have about 5 or 6 guys, and so to get 2 in the same season, like this is truly incredible.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, when you think about all the talent they've had over the years, who are you laughing at now?
Slappy Joe.
Yeah, I know. He's talking about why can't we lose Jordan? He's a Viper who can't put pressure on the guy. Still waiting for it to happen. Still waiting for it.
Man, this defense is going to be crazy next year.
It's going to be really good.
If Watts comes back with Benjamin Morrison and Mickey and Gray, and now you got Howard and you got Mills back, and there's potential Kaiser's going to be back. There's potential Bertrand's going to be back. Then you mix in Osbury and Drake Bowen as some of these younger linebackers. Jalen Sneed is you would expect to have a bigger role. To me, really the missing piece is can they shore up those defensive end positions? And with Oben on kind of the brink of potentially committing, it seems like this whole unit could just be as even better next season if you really think about it.
Brent wants to know who the 3 starting linebackers will be in 2024. I would think it will be Drake Bowen. This is just, again, there's a spring to go through. There's a lot right now. I would say Drake Bowen at Mike. I would say Jack Kaiser at Will, and Jalen Sneed at Rover.
Ooh.
But I still think that Jaden Osbury will play a lot next year as well, whether or not he's the starter. But you're not bringing Jack Kaiser back if he's not going to be starting.
If there's not a role for him.
Yeah.
You're not talking to Jack Kaiser and be like, hey, we're bringing you back, and then not playing him next season.
Yeah. Bryce Simony says all these defensive guys coming back makes me think Golden is going to be coming back. I would tend to agree with that. I still think the only thing that would prevent that, unless Golden is just dead set that he is definitely going to stay at Notre Dame and be at Notre Dame's defensive coordinator for at least another year. I think the only thing is you're going to have all these in about a month here. You're going to have a lot of coaching vacancies in the NFL, and whether or not an NFL team comes looking for Al Golden, that would be the thing I think that could potentially get him away if he desires to be an NFL defensive coordinator, since he's had, so much time in the NFL. DK wants me to say Watts is leaving because I really want him back. I mean, am I really that much of a kiss of death? Like everything I predict, like the opposite, like I will do the opposite. And that's
me. That's been me in gambling recently. You should just fade everything I do.
That's right. All right, DK, if it makes you happy, Watts is leaving. He's not coming back. Okay. There you go. Did he announce? But Riley Mills is coming back. So it's, again, you've got Botello at Viper. You've got both interior defensive linemen in Riley Mills and Howard Cross. You've got RJ Oben now to replace Javonte Jean-Baptiste. So it's going to be another really good defensive line. And you've got those young guys behind him. And I think that that's going to be good for another year of development for everybody to have those, both the frontline guys and the guys at the back. Joe says I have to say it with heart. I thought I was saying it with heart. All right. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the league's competition committee is going to continue to look at and evaluate the brotherly love, tush push, whatever it's called, that the Eagles use in their short yardage situations. A lot of people want it banned. Do you buy or sell banning it like some people want?
I sell banning it. And the reason why I sell banning it is everyone's just a hater. I've seen teams try to run it. They can't successfully do it. I just think there's a lot of pushback because of the fact that they can't do it. And I know everyone's going to fall back on, player safety, that's the main thing. And, how they're going about completing the play, whatever. Listen, if you don't want them to do it, 1, stop them. And then 2, don't let them get in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 type situations. It's really not that hard. I think I saw one brotherly shove game when when the Cowboys were playing the Eagles the other night. You know why? Because they didn't get them into some of those, or they didn't allow the Eagles to get into those positions. And so if you're going to complain about it, find a way to stop it. That's the way the NFL has run. When they introduced, the way Patrick Mahomes plays, when they introduced RG3, when he came into the league, a lot of teams couldn't stop him. Or are we just going to ban dual threat quarterbacks for that reason? No, you have to find ways to get innovative to stop them. Scheme it, do different things.
I don't understand why everyone is so worked up about banning a play that only one team has managed to use successfully
Right.
almost 100% of the time. Like nobody else is able to run it the way the Eagles are. It is only them that is as successful as they are with this play. All these other teams are trying, and they don't have a quarterback who can squat like 700 pounds or 800 pounds or whatever it is, like Jalen Hurts. They're the only ones who can do it. So I don't understand why everyone is so worked up about this. And I mean, it is a simple quarterback sneak play that for whatever reason, the Eagles are successful, but nobody else is. Like, stop it if you don't like it. And you're going to change a whole rule just because one team is good at something is just ridiculous to me. I would be curious to see, like, if you took Jalen Hurts out of the mix, like how successful even the Eagles would be with it.
It's just like, imagine when the West Coast offense was first introduced and teams were like, wow, this is really hard to stop. Should we ban this?
Right.
That's the same concept. Or using like motions and, all this stuff that, Shanahan and McDaniel and all these guys are constantly like, did you see Tyreek Hill line up in a 3-point stance in some of his routes the other night? It's just like, there's new ways to be innovative, and that's the whole point. You have to be able, as a defensive, that's what you get paid to do. You're a defensive coordinator in the NFL. You have to be able to scheme and try to, figure out how to stop new things.
By the way, Brent came at you early with this one. I've been saving it. He wants to know who's the number one passer in the NFL with only 48% of his passing yards from Yak, Mahomes and Rodgers. MVP seasons, 54 and 56%. So who's the number one quarterback in the NFL?
It's a very pointed question after
Could
a very
he be
pointed
possibly
comment.
Talking about Brock Purdy. Like,
I think that he wants me to say that Brock Purdy is the league's, best quarterback, but I'm just simply not going to say it. I'll put it like this. I think that there are probably 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this league better than Brock Purdy right now.
Ooh. Do they have names?
I put Dak Prescott up there.
Ooh.
I put Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes.
Controversial.
Tua would be up there. And I think Tua and Brock would be on pretty much the same playing field. And then Herbert, when he's healthy, is better. And then I think Lamar might also be better.
Is Tua really that good?
Tua, you can give me some.
If you take Tyreek away, look, man, I don't want to hear all these people, coming with the Dak doubt right now, because he's legitimately being talked about for MVP.
He's the favorite right now. Go on FanDuel and see who's got the.
Yeah, we're talking about this season. We're talking about this season, and like there are things you can knock in Dak's game, but for this season, and especially the way he's playing in the current stretch, you can't talk about him right now. DK Flacco is better than Dak. T Guns. I mean, it's there is an argument in this that Brock is a product of the talent around him, and I think you can make that case about Jalen Hurts as well. I mean, really, when it comes right down to it, isn't DeVito the best quarterback in the NFL right now? Like,
I think he's got the best agent, that's for sure.
That's right. All right, but Brent had to be sure and get his 49ers zing in on Jesse tonight.
He did his homework. He was ready to come in there with that. He's ready. He's ready. He was ready to come in with that.
Hold it. Big Lick is trying to say that you can make that argument about Dak. What? Because he has one good receiver? Like,
I would say that Dak is bringing
all this talent around
his team. I think Dak is the reason why some of his talent is excelling. Like, look at what Brandon Cooks is doing this season. For this offense, I know Brandon Cooks is a consistently 1,000-yard receiver, but I mean, just like if you.
But they didn't go to him early, like,
right.
And that's part of the difference in where Dak is right now, because he figured out, I can throw to this guy as well. But the biggest difference is they're throwing to their best receiver more consistently.
They're doing what the Bengals, the Vikings, all the good teams, even the 49ers with, Deebo Samuel, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Good offenses find ways to just get their best wide receiver the ball.
Yeah, Cam Newton says he doesn't think Purdy is a top quarterback. And look,
That
Like,
sparked a lot of debate yesterday.
at the end of the day, does Purdy have a lot of talent around him? Yes, he does. And does Jalen Hurts? Yes, he does. But the quarterback still has to be able to get that talent the ball. And he still has, whether if you want to knock those guys by calling them, system quarterbacks or whatever, that's fine. But they're not going to have the success that they have if the quarterback that they've got is a dog, that's got a bunch of talent around him. So you still have to give those guys props for going out and executing and doing what they're asked to do, regardless of how much talent they've got around them.
I think I'll keep it short in terms of Cam Newton's comments. I think Cam Newton is just a little butthurt. He's not in the league, and he's seen these other quarterbacks around him in the league. But I got a news flash for you, Cam Newton. Yeah. If you wanted to stay in the league, you should have, tweaked your game a little bit. You were a quarterback, a running back that sometimes played quarterback. When it came down to actually dissecting teams with your arm and reading defenses and those sort of things, I don't think Cam Newton was it. He relied on his running, and once he couldn't, do that anymore because of the injuries and just the age on him, there's a reason why he's been out of the league for a while now, right? Like, he could have very easily still been a backup quarterback in this league right now, but that's not what he wants to do. And he doesn't want to adjust to what's being asked of him. He just wants to play quarterback how he wants to play. And so I just think there's a lot of envy that comes from what he was saying.
Yep. So Al Michaels left NBC after several years to move to Amazon last year to call the Thursday night NFL games. NBC still had Michaels and Tony Dungy call a playoff game together last year. And you might remember it was pretty well criticized for lack of enthusiasm in the broadcast. But NBC announced this week that the 79-year-old Al Michaels is now out, and they are going to put Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge into the playoff assignment this year. What do you think of that move?
I enjoyed the Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge, and I'll be short about this one. I feel like Al Michaels recently has just kind of turned into that old crotchety, old man. It's like no one wants to listen to that, especially when the playoffs are on. This is supposed to be the most exciting, anticipated, football of the year. And when Al Michaels is sitting here complaining all the time about this and that and being, the get off my lawn guy, who wants to listen to that? And so you bring in a younger Noah Eagle, guys who are more passionate and kind of, in a sense, want to be there or grateful to be there. That's who they're going to roll with. So I think it's all, Al Michaels' own doing. So, and I love Al Michaels, but I want the guy who's going to make the playoffs more interesting and be more excited about it. Even when if it's a bad game, it's kind of what your job is to do, is to make the game better because it's not going as you anticipated.
It's exactly right. I've called plenty of stinker games in my life, but it is still your job to make it as interesting as possible and to try to give people a reason to watch, / listen, even if the game is uninteresting. And complaining about it on the air doesn't help anything. Look, there's a strong case for Al Michaels as the best play-by-play announcer of all time. And at the very least, the Mount Rushmore of play-by-play announcers. It's all personal taste, so whatever. But the guy has been doing network TV play-by-play for more than 50 years. But just like sports, it's a bottom line business, and everyone's time comes at some point. Pitchers lose their fastballs and announcers lose their fastballs at some point as well. And Michaels is still a good play-by-play announcer, but he's just not what he was even 5 years ago, because, the longer you stay around, the greater the odds are that you're not going to get out to, you're not going to get to go out on your own terms. It's just a fact of life. And, he wants to keep that NBC playoff job, but look, he moved to Amazon last year. And what did I text you a couple of weeks ago when we were watching the Cowboys and the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football, when Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit were calling the game together? Do you remember what I texted you?
I think you said something about how boring it was.
It's a boring broadcast.
I muted the second half, so
yeah. It is technically a solid broadcast, but it's just boring. And the stuff you were talking about, the grumpy old man and all, He's complaining about the quality of the game. He's complaining about, oh, I don't want to show Taylor Swift. Well, guess what? Everyone else is showing Taylor Swift. And, so far, it's like you might infuriate the hardcore football people, but the casuals love it, right? And I get it. Like most of the Thursday night matchups are the equivalent of probably the 5th or 6th game that you're going to get on a Sunday, but Michaels is paid like one of the elite broadcasters still. He's getting paid a lot more than those guys who are calling the 5th or 6th best NFL game on a Sunday. So he's been great forever. Right now, his broadcasts are not among the greats, and NBC has the right to do with what they want to do. And that's what they're doing.
Correct.
Joe says he mutes the games when Garrett is on. And that's, that'll be an off-season topic once, a lot of this personnel stuff, transfer portal and opt-outs and everything else finally dies down. That'll be an off-season topic, I'm sure, as well. Excuse me, that is going to come up again and again. Uh-oh, Brent is still coming at you. Who leads the NFL in quarterback rating?
Go to
Who
PFF.
is first in air yards of 30-plus?
Go read Stephen Ruiz articles.
We get it. They're going to be
I'm
the
not saying he's not bad.
They're probably going to go to the Super Bowl, So.
The MVP is going to be between Dak and Brock, assuming that both guys continue to play how they're playing. So we'll let the NFL decide ultimately.
I mean, Dak's got a tough stretch coming up here this month.
Yeah, he's got the Bills. He's got the Lions.
If him and the team get through this, in good shape, and he doesn't just collapse in December, he's going to be in that conversation, like it or not. I don't know that he's necessarily the MVP, but you have to at least give him this. Everyone was bagging on him because of all the interceptions that he threw. It's, all you heard in the offseason, oh, he led the NFL in interceptions. Well, he's a lot different quarterback right now. And I find it hysterical, and we're going to see him matched up with Josh Allen this weekend. I find it hysterical that all these Buffalo Bills fans think that Josh Allen, oh, he gets all this unfair criticism and blah, blah, blah. He has led the NFL, the entire NFL in turnovers
since he
like
joined.
The last 5 years. Yeah, but I don't think he gets enough criticism. So,
well, again, now the classic Dan Orlovsky backpedal is, all the great quarterbacks have interceptions because they're asked to throw the ball a lot. So it's just narrative based. People pick and choose when they want to hold interceptions or whatever it might be against you. And that's, to me, that's like what I've done the most this season in terms of the Cowboys and Dak. I just disconnected. I formulated my own opinions on how I think things are going. I'm tired of everyone else trying to tell me, what I should think of this or that and how they're playing. Just, I can do that myself.
This was earlier in the show. DK is just always happy when he hears Dallas Cowboys references. So keep it coming. Make DK happy. As many Dallas Cowboys references as you can. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. It is Thursday. Thursday is usually the last day of the week that we do a show. Rumor has it there could be another Friday show in the works. So we shall see. We shall see what happens. Again, the top news of the last 2 hours, Audric Estime declaring for the NFL draft, opting out of the Sun Bowl, but Riley Mills announcing that he is coming back for one more year. So we could be finally getting to the end of the breaking opt-out draft declarations for Notre Dame. We could finally be reaching the end of that stretch. We shall see tomorrow, I guess. Are you hopeful?
I am. It's just time to get locked in on the bull. All this is just extra noise. It's time to move on. You're either
Jesse,
in or out.
I think what the world, well, that's a good question. What the world wants to know, Vince has committed to a Friday show. Are you willing to commit to a Friday show?
There's potential. There's strong potential.
Okay.
Tomorrow I could be there.
3-man booth tomorrow?
I could be there.
You're in. We'll be here tomorrow. all three of us, Steyer Squared and VD, will be in the house 6 o'clock Friday night. So be here because we will as well. You're in?
I'm
Hold
there.
me to it.
I'm there.
3-man show, 6 o'clock.
He's buying dinner.
Vince, well, I know that's a lie. That's not happening. All right. Well, we will talk to you then. Hit the like button on your way out. And of course, subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you, DK. IB Nation Sports Talk.